So Taylor, thank you so much for being here and being willing to be vulnerable in this conversation, and especially in front of 4 cameras. So I will give you the platform. What is something vulnerable that you like to talk about?
I wouldn't necessarily say that I like talking about it because it's definitely a struggle to get there and it challenges me. But in conversations with friends, I've been really trying to talk about my struggles, what I'm struggling with, what feels heavy on my heart at the moment. That makes me feel so vulnerable and open and raw because I think so much of the time I like to just say, oh, I'm great, everything's great, I'm fine. And I've just been really challenging myself to dig deeper than that. And that makes me feel super vulnerable and open.
I love that. So what is something that you're struggling with or have you struggled with?
Kind of a reoccurring struggle, I guess, that always kind of feels heavy to me is a lot of my insecurities. So I think one thing that always comes to mind and that kind of haunts me is feeling unqualified for so many positions in my life. And that's a hard thing to say to people because I want to come off confident and that I'm this tough, like, powerhouse girl boss that has it all together, and I don't. And I struggle with feeling unqualified sometimes in my jobs, in the way I look, in friendships and in relationships. So that's something that has kind of been like a reoccurring word and almost theme in my life is that unqualified.
Unqualified. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, so what are some of these jobs that you go for, and why is it you feel unqualified?
I think it stems back pretty far from when I was 18. I think up until then I was pretty confident, I think, for a teenager. And then I moved to LA and I got involved in the entertainment industry. I was a professional dancer for many years. And I used to joke and tell people, like, my job was being told no, basically. I would go to sometimes 10 auditions a week and not book one of those jobs. And at the time, I don't think I realized how much it affected me because I tried to have thick skin. I tried to let it roll off my shoulder. But I think after, 4 years of that, it kind of grinded away at me and my confidence. And it's kind of something just recently I've realized that I'm like, wow, I need to kind of go back and reevaluate, that happening for so many years. So, yeah.
So I'm curious. So
yeah.
You said that your job was being said no to.
Right.
And being said no to is like, that's a tough thing. And then like when I'm said no to, at least like I feel like, oh, like a little bit like a little kid. I'm like, oh, like, no, you can't do this. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not very big. So yeah. When you were said no to, what was like, do you remember like the moment or like the feeling within that? Or like even going back and realizing something deeper was going on in there?
Totally. I remember so many specific moments of jobs that I really wanted, that I feel like I worked so hard for and trained so hard for, and I would get my hopes up and I'd be so excited. And then for someone to look at you and say, no, you're not good enough for this reason or this reason, it's so hard. And to have that over and over and over again is so difficult. It's so hard to be told no to one thing, but to be told no, or you don't look a certain way, or you're not tall enough, or your nose isn't the right shape, or you're not all of these things that these people want you to be, it grinds away at you, I think, after a while.
So what exactly did that grind away at? What did that say about you?
It grinded away at my confidence because, at 18, I was so naive. I moved to LA and was like, I want to be a dancer in Hollywood. And, I had these bright eyes and I had this excitement and this joy. And then when you realize that you're fighting for something that you don't even really get a chance to do, you have to audition before you get the job. So I was like, wow, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. And it totally took a toll on my confidence. And I didn't really realize it at the time, because I was just so in it, and it had become my daily life, that I didn't realize the importance of stepping out of that and listening to the truths and not the lies. Because I think, not that what they were saying wasn't true, but that's their opinion, right? So those were people's opinions about me, which isn't the truth, but their opinions became my truth. And that was a tough thing to deal with.
So what are your truths?
It's so funny that you asked me this, because I just was having a conversation with my roommate, Nicole, like a month ago. And we were chatting about goals and the New Year's and all these things. And she was like, well, what are your strengths? And I just was blank. I was like, I don't know. I couldn't. And it's so funny, because that was kind of a pivotal moment I was like, I need to take a step back here and realize, what are my strengths? Like, what are my truths? And I think that's something that I am processing and dealing with right now, and trying to figure out, So that's like a tough question right now, because I don't have an answer right now to that. So.
Okay. So do you see a way of moving forward with finding that answer?
100%. I think it's diving into my community. I am a professional at isolating myself when I'm going through hard times. And so that's why this is vulnerable for me, is because I am someone who likes to say, I'm okay. Everything's fine, even if I feel broken inside.
Or have that facade up.
Totally. I am so guilty of that. And I like to pretend that everything's okay and that I'm okay. And I think working through that, and what I'm trying to do, is a lot of self-care and aligning my head and my heart in the right place, because I'll never be able to do anything if that's not centered and if I'm not centered. So yeah, I'm really right now in the process of learning those things and taking care of myself and feeding my head and my heart the right things, and not the lies and the insecurities.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up when people ask you, how are you? And that whenever somebody asks me how are you, I cringe. And I actually hate it when people ask that. And I will still respond with good, but instead I'm like, nobody answers, if they're being true, nobody answers that way to how are you, and just like in a passing conversation. And I'm like, obviously I have a lot of aches and pains at the moment. I also have like a lot of great things at the moment that are going on. And how are you? I just feel like it just makes me cringe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's, what all of this is, and what I'm pushing myself to do, is to get past that and not just have these one-off passing by conversations, but like really reaching out and asking people, how are you? How is your heart? How is your brain? Those deeper questions, because it's so easy to just, I'm good, I'm fine. That's like, it's so easy to say that, but it's tough to say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, and I'm having a hard time. And it changes. You have seasons, and whether if I'm struggling in my relationship or a friendship or in my job, I'm really trying to be more vocal about it, because it's that sense of, hey, I'm not alone in this. And that's what is the most comforting, is knowing you're not alone.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, is like for me, when I have issues going on, insecurities, that when I don't vocalize it, then I isolate myself. And I feel like nobody else is going through this, and nobody wants to know about this. And so I just feel so alone in it. And then when I open up about what things are going on in my life, then I realized that most people are going through the exact same things.
100%.
And that, like, I'm not alone at all. And it's just,
Yeah, it's just craving that human connection, right? At the end of the day, that's all it's about. And so when I take the proactive steps of diving into my faith, which is really important to me, or my friendships, it softens the burden and it makes the load feel a little bit lighter, which is what we all want and really need.
Well, so I'm curious, you mentioned that, like, you throw up the facades at times. That's something you've done. How else do you throw up the facades besides saying, I'm good, and ask, how are you?
I mean, I think that's the biggest one that I do. When I'm able to really sit down and focus and talk to someone, I'm able to get to the honest and vulnerable, but I think that's my biggest problem. I had a conversation with a friend. This happened many years ago, but I was in a really long relationship and I had gotten cheated on, and it was very traumatic for me. And I went and had lunch with a friend, and he was like, how are you? Like, how was your Christmas break? And I was like, it was good. You know, I laid low, I stayed in town, and I didn't even mention this traumatic thing that I had just went through. And then by the end of it, you know, he asked how he was, my ex-boyfriend, and I was like, oh, well, he actually cheated on me and we're not together anymore. And my friend was like, how did you not tell me this through an entire meal, you know? And I do that in so much of my life, is these big things that happen that I'm struggling with, and I'll keep it all inside, and then it eats away at me, and then I'll have like these breakdowns and these like almost like fits of anxiety and this feeling of like craziness and not knowing how to get back to peace. And it's because I keep it all inside, which, you know, my friend was like, how do you go an entire meal without telling me? Like, you're pretty much, a lot of your life has changed. But
that's such a normal thing, though.
Yeah.
Like, most people do that regularly. Okay, so something else I'm curious about that you mentioned earlier. So you mentioned that you moved out to LA to pursue the industry. And that you had people saying no to you and saying why, like you said, with the no's kind of things. I'm curious about physical insecurities. I feel like is a very normal thing for women, especially in LA. What are your thoughts?
To be really specific, which I think not only women in the industry, but I think women around the world could probably agree, one of my biggest is struggling with like body positivity. And then, yeah, my nose. I don't know why, but I've always had this weird thing about my nose, and I think it was because, again, many years ago, I will never forget this. Somebody called me a yellow tooth, slug nose, bleep. And this was so long ago. Okay, I was maybe 18 or 19, and I have been complimented and encouraged a million times since then. Sorry. But I remember that, you know, and I hold on to that. And that's what I'm saying, holding on to lies is sometimes so much easier than holding on to truths, you know. And it's kind of funny, I had a little bit of a redeeming moment a few months ago, and I had booked a job, and the photographer was like, oh my gosh, I love your profile, like this is why I booked you. I about fell on the floor. I was like, what? I've never.
Wait, why?
My profile. So when they're taking a picture, this is your profile, when it's like a side view of your face.
Because of your nose.
Yeah, and I was like, what? And she goes, yeah, the only reason I booked you is because I love the shape of your nose. And I'm like, you know, what? And she's like, without that, you would look like everyone else in LA. And it had this, like, I had this little moment of like, thank goodness I didn't listen to that lie so many years ago, you know, because I am not gonna lie, I 100% have thought, should I get plastic surgery? Should I get lip injections? Should I get a nose job? Should I, all of these things. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But also, if I would have listened to that person so many years ago, I wouldn't be who I am right now and how I was created to be, right? So it was kind of this like special little moment that it was really small, but it was kind of just like this, like, hey, like you're on the right track, you're doing the right thing.
I love that. How
yeah,
redeeming.
Cool. Yeah, it was totally redeeming, and that photographer has no idea. I mean, maybe she'll see this, but she has no idea how redeeming that was for me and how important that was, I think, for me to hear, right? And she was just being kind and spoke on something, so.
Yeah, like that just brings to mind just how powerful it is to speak truth over people and point out, instead of tear people down as nitpick at what you see as might be wrong with somebody, but point out what you see is great about somebody.
It's so important. I mean, you can literally change someone's life by leaning in. And, I think we think nice things most of the time, but we rarely speak on it. And I do that too. I'll think something, if someone walking by or if I'm talking with someone, I'll think of something really nice, but I don't say it. But I think it's our job to do that.
Yeah, and you have no idea what their insecurities are, what maybe some other person told her that made that same thing for some reason was not of value.
Yeah.
That you can like redirect that value.
100%, yeah.
That's incredible.
I'm just really battling with that unqualified feeling every day, and I feel so chained to it sometimes that I won't take opportunities or I won't do things because I'm like, someone else is better. Someone else is better than me that's better qualified to do this.
So you get an offer to do something and you say, I'm not qualified, that they deserve somebody better?
A lot of the time.
That's fascinating.
Auditions, jobs, even when you asked me to do this, I read the message and I was like, no, like, of course I'm not gonna do this. Like, there's someone so much better that you could talk to that would fit better, that would be more vulnerable. And, this was a tiny victory for me because I am so nervous right now, still, even talking to you. And, I'm happy that I'm taking advantage of opportunity when it's laid out in front of me. And it's hard for me too. Even jobs, I've been so blessed with, I'm like, they're gonna find someone better. Like, maybe I shouldn't do this because there's someone better. And it's just, I know what I should be saying is yes. Why not me? Why not me? That's what I've been trying to ask myself.
That's fascinating. That's personally not something that I can relate to.
Yeah.
Probably because I don't get
That's a good thing.
a lot of opportunities thrown my way anyways.
That's a good thing you're not this way.
But I'd be very curious to, like, if we could do a study that asks people, like, how often do you turn down opportunities or jobs because you feel unqualified? Like, it wouldn't surprise me if that was a big thing that just really held people back. Yeah.
I mean, even from as young as 18 when I was a dancer, I would say no to auditions because I was like, I'm not good enough. But I trained really hard and I worked really hard. And I think what's so hard about feeling unqualified too is that for myself, I have such good friends and I have an amazing family who is so supportive and believes in me, and I have these people who cheer me on. And I think the hardest part about feeling unqualified is that I make myself feel that way too. It's not, yes, I got told no and I was dealing with those things, but my immediate circle is so good, right? And it confuses me. I'm like, how am I surrounded by such amazing people, but I'm tearing myself down? And that's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. So why?
It's listening to those little lies, and it's
the same lies that people told you
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in a different realm of work now, so, you know, a lot of that in the past was physical things that, you know, I've tried to deal with and I still am dealing with, but now it's like I don't like being new at things. I don't like being a beginner. I want to be an expert and I want to be the best. I've been that way since I was a little kid. And so when I'm not there, when I'm not the best and when I'm not the expert, I tear myself down and I make myself fail. And it's so hard to even say that out loud right now because I feel almost like ashamed of it, you know?
Well, I'm going to point out just how much of a beautiful human being you are.
Thank you.
And I think that, yeah, this is also fascinating to me because just like you mentioned that you felt unqualified when I sent you that original text message, that I've been putting this together for the last 3 months, and that I actually have in my room one of my walls is a just completely whiteboard, and so I have all my thoughts and ideas on there. And so when I had this segment, the first person I put up, I was like, Taylor. I was like, and every time I thought about this segment, I thought I would just picture you sitting right here in this chair, because like Taylor is just such, first of all, a great person and so beautiful. But I feel like in the moment that you are not afraid to be exactly who you are. And I think that's such a rarity, especially in LA, with, you know, there's a lot of facades. And I know that at times you may put facades up. But I think that when it counts, you are completely yourself. And that is just the most beautiful thing that I love.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there's this balance of like, I definitely feel like I am myself and I really try to be authentic and real and open, but there are definitely times of struggle when I just want to pretend like everything's fine because I don't want to burden someone else or something, you know, but it's even like I'm also in the process of learning how to take compliments instead of pushing them away. So I appreciate that, and that means a lot. So thank you.
And thank you for being here and being completely real and completely vulnerable to who you are, this beautiful self that you are.